First thing we're going to do to install this is the faucet first. It's always easier because if you do the drain first, it's just a pain. So the first thing you want to do is the faucet. And like I said, in this case, we have an 8-inch center faucet. There's all kinds of parts here. It's probably one of the hardest faucets to install is an 8-inch center because it's hard to make them look perfect, and sometimes it takes two people. So Clayton's going to give us a hand with this one. First thing we put in here is our spout. We put it right dead center. Clayton will hold on to that for us. What I'll be doing below is we got this the mounting plate that'll hold it from underneath, and then just a nut. Got a nice little nut that we're going to screw onto here, just like this. Not all faucets will be the same. This is a Moen, so depending on which one you have, but generally they'll have some sort of. And then this black piece here, if the counter is too thick, you can pop that off and just use this part here if you need to. Get a nice fancy tool, the nut just fits right in, so you can screw it from underneath. And if you need to, you can put a screwdriver through these holes to crank it even better. So all Clayton's gonna do is hold that straight so the spout is aiming straight, because if you do this by yourself, sometimes you gotta go up and down and it's kind of a pain.
Yeah, everything will move. The best thing to do here is you want it to be exactly center of this hole. Kind of eye it out where the center of this hole is gonna be. This is going to determine where the center of my handles are going to be, because I'm going to do a measurement off the wall and make sure that my handles are center off the back wall to center of the hole. Because if they're off center, you can really notice it with 8-inch center taps here, so you can see he's tightening it there. Just let me.
So now I'm going to use a screwdriver just to.
Okay, just give me a second, Carson. I'm going to. Yeah, I'm just going to climb up here. So what I'm doing here now is I'm just holding it so that it doesn't spin. You want it tight enough so that you grab with 2 fingers, go side to side, and it's not moving. All right.
Real good?
Yeah. So do you want to, we'll put the cold. So on these here, Carson will explain.
So on these, there's a hot and cold, blue and red. Obviously hot will be on left. First we'll do the cold. We're going to screw this nut on here first, so this is what tightens it up from underneath. Clayton will do the other one. So usually what I'll do is I'll just screw that all the way to the bottom, and then we got this little plate that mounts it from underneath. Just drop that on, and then what I'm gonna do is I'll be putting this up from underneath. These things you want to look in the instruction booklet because they generally have to face a certain way. You'll know as soon as you go to put on the hose. We'll show you after, but these you want to face them a certain way so that the hose can click in there without kinking. So now from underneath, this goes up.
This slides like this, and then this ring goes here, and then this you just falls down into, and it holds it up onto the countertop.
Yeah, this is a stopper ring so that it sets the proper height. So you don't have to adjust any heights or anything. These Moen faucets are quite nice. Some faucets out there you have to actually adjust it yourself, and they can be a pain. So yeah, you put this little ring on first, and this stopper ring, and this adjusts your height. So what I'll do is I'll shove it up from underneath, and Clayton will put those rings on for me.
So while he's getting set up down there, I'm just gonna get my measurement. So I know that to center is 3.5 inches. So I just got to make sure that when he slides this up, and I'll show you why. You can see here, see how much movement there is? So what I'll do is I'll set this here, and then we'll put the little clip on here, so we'll just drop that down. You'll be able to see it better on the, and then from here what I'll do is I'll know I gotta be 3.5 inches.
I'll get it kind of semi-snug first.
Yeah. I would actually even say it's closer to 3.25 actually. So we'll set this at 3.25, which is right there.
You hold it?
Yeah.
So what I'm going to use to tighten this up is a basin wrench. It's really nice to get into tight spaces, so you can angle it and tighten it any which way you want.
Well, what you don't want to do is use any sort of wires or wrenches on these threads here.
The handle on, so we know which way the handle's facing on these type of faucets. So that'll be good.
So we'll just turn it a little bit.
Okay, I can move it. Do you want to just screw that down and I'll adjust it?
Absolutely, Thurston. See how easy these are? No, other way.
Other way?
Yeah, keep going. Little, no, that should be good.
Okay. I should be able to hold it from down here so it doesn't move.
If it does, I'll let you know. And I'll just double check that we are 3 1/4 to center. Perfect.
Is that tight?
Oh yeah, yeah. The nice thing with these handles here is that you don't have to go crazy tight against the countertop here because it is just such a nice, easy stop. It's not like those other handles, you know, they seize up and
Yeah.
these
Quarter turn. And the nice thing about mowing, it's easy to get cartridges for mowing. You can bring them into Home Depot or any plumbing wholesale nearby, and they'll give them to you for free if you just bring in the old one. So what I found down there is the hot. I just face it to the left, to the outside, and the cold I'll face it to the outside too, to the right. Then that way, when we do the hoses later, they just click in nice and easy. So now I'll throw the cold up.
Yeah, and it's nice too because mowing is very well known. So for their cartridges, it's very likely that they're going to be available in the store. So you won't have to search around or order it online. So that just clips in like that. You get him to drop it down. You'll snug it up. Okay, and then I'll just get a measurement to center. We're good. And then I'll just put the handle on. Get it snug there with your base around. Okay, put the handle on. Now with these obviously outwards is off.
Can you adjust your handle?
Yeah, right there is perfect. You can do these on your own, but when you have somebody else helping you, it cuts the time in half.
Yeah, I'd be coming up and down and up and down.
Yeah, even if your wife is there just to hold things and...
Or husband. So this is tight, that's tight. All right, so now we got an awkward view here, but at least you can somewhat see what we've done underneath here. We have this hose that connects the hot and cold to the spout. So the middle one, we're gonna wanna click this middle one in first into the tubs or into the faucet spout. And then remember how I said that these two things point to the outside? It makes it so that when you click these in, you get a nice loop and there's no kinks in here. So then we click the other one in. Nice thing about mowing is these are all click and go and you're done, good and done. Whereas a lot of the other ones, you gotta kind of screw them on and there's just seems like more chance to leak. This is a very nice setup. Next thing we're gonna want to put on are our lav supplies. So they just screw onto the bottom of the hot and cold faucets. These are just standard lav supplies. You can get them at any hardware store or plumbing store.
They are 20-inch lav supplies.
These are the long ones, yeah.
Yeah, we like to use 20-inch because you can make nice loops with them if they're too long. If they're too short, sometimes the loop can cause a kink. So,
and these
I like to use the longer ones.
These do not need to be super tight. You're better off just kind of snugging them. And testing for leaks later because you can over tighten these and screw up the gasket in there. So now we'll do the same thing to the other side. Alright, so in this case we already have valves here. So we're going to just take the 3/8 end of this lav supply and screw it onto our left to hot. These are little channel locks. I like to just back this up with my hands. So sometimes these will spin. We can adjust that after. I'll have to grab another pair of pliers, or I can just spin it. You just don't want it to kink.
Just gonna show you what.
And these go just snug. Again, not everything has to be crazy tight with these. If we need to adjust them, you can always spin your valve too, so it makes a nice loop.
Yeah. And we'll do the exact same thing with the other side.
Now we're going to do the cold. Alright, so now we're going to put in the pop-up assembly for the drain. In this case, this one screws in from underneath. There's different styles, but in this one, we're going to have to, what we'll do is we're going to put some silicone on this, put it down, go from underneath, and then screw this up. Just put a nice little bead around. So what this is going to do is seal the sink for when you're trying to fill it. So if you're ever trying to fill the sink, if you don't have either a gasket or silicone there, water will just leak through here and your sink won't hold water. So I'm going to put this down and on top. Kind of give it a spin to smear it a bit. Alright, so now we've got this part spun all the way to the bottom like we did the other parts, just to allow us to have space to screw it up, and then we're going to be putting silicone. So what he's saying is we just put the silicone in here. So this is just going to help seal any leaks. That gasket will usually do the trick, but this assures you that you're not going to have any leaks.
And see how he's getting nice and close to the threads there? So you want the gasket to push the silicones in the threads, because that's usually where it leaks from.
Yeah.
This gasket doesn't make the proper seal in the threads.
Hold this down. Screw it up from underneath. There's the pop-up assembly from the back. You want this nut facing straight back center so that it's shooting back towards, so that when we put our pop-up assembly on, it fits in nicely. So then we just screw this, kind of just hold it by the tail piece here. Screw this up. And as I'm screwing it, that silicone is squishing and going inside those threads like Clayton was talking about to make a nice seal. So because this is plastic, you also don't want to go too tight, because you'll just strip the threads. So we just got to find that perfect tightness. And a lot of times it's easy just to test for leaks and then give it a little snug later if you need to. Oh yeah, you want her tight. Okay, nice and tight. And then what I like to do is just take my rag after, make the silicone look nice and pretty. Alright, so there's lots of different steps to doing a pop-up. We're going to do our best to get as much visual for you guys as we can, but we'll do as much explaining as possible at the same time. This is the pop-up lever. A lot of times it doesn't necessarily slide in, because sometimes the spout is too close to the wall. So we got lucky. It does slide in easily because we're far away from the wall, but you'll have to double check that before you put the spout in sometimes. Next, we're gonna drop this in. Usually I'll face this hole to the back and I'll actually lock this guy in so that when it's popping up and down, you can't pull it out. Like if you have kids or something, they pull these out. So it's nice to have it locked in there. So I'll just drop this in here with that hole facing straight to the back. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in down below and slide this into that tail piece that we just screwed in, and then lock it into that and make sure it's locked in. Mm-hmm. For the pop-up for the overflow, you want to make sure this lever is all the way down. And you take this guy, it's got a nice nut on there, I've loosened it off so I can slide it straight up onto the pop-up lever from up above. So we slide that up to a nice height, and then you got a bunch of different holes here. So we just adjust it to the one that we think is best, and then we got our little stopper here. I'm going to slide it on. What I usually do is I like to put it on first, and then just pinch this. Sometimes they're a pain.
Yeah, they're kind of tight.
So now that it's done that, what I'll do is I'll tighten this nut from above. We'll show you a view after what it should look like. Alright, so now that we have got this all done underneath, we can test it to make sure that it works. It slides nicely. Let's go under and see what it looks like. Alright, so this is what it's going to look like when you're done. In this case, our rod going back from the pop-up there, this guy here, wasn't quite long enough, so I just had to bend this. Sometimes you gotta kind of improvise with what you got. So this wasn't long enough, so I've just bent this, put our clip on, tighten this screw down real tight up here. These are the parts that usually come loose. If you have an issue with these, always just come in and check this part, and that's what you want it to look like. Alright, so now for the drain. What I usually like to do when I'm doing the drains is I'll put my trap adapter, just snug it up here, and then I'll just line the end of my P-trap up with where the drain's gonna be and just get a measurement. And then I'll actually glue it right in. You just wanna make sure that you have an even amount of glue around all the piping and the inside of the fitting. Jam it in there and spin it. You're gonna have a little bit of glue that will come outside. We'll grab a rag here and just wipe that clean. And then I'm going to glue it into the P-trap. So we're gonna glue it into here. Shove it in and give it a nice spin. Bunch of glue spouting out there. Just give it a nice wipe. And then we'll just, what I like to do is I'm going to put this up, line it up with the drain inside the wall. Tighten that so it doesn't move. You can measure this if you don't have a great eye. I don't generally measure these, but what you can do is just measure off the side of the cabinet to the drain, and then line up your P-trap so you get it exact. But I will just go in here and give it a nice eye. And then, not a huge deal, but we like to make sure that these are coming down straight so that when people do look in there, it looks like it's been done by a professional. So then I'm going to measure this piece. I like to go face to face, and add 1.5 inches for 1.5 pipe. That's the fitting allowance. And then what I'll do is I'll just move this out of the way, take this off, take the 90 off the P-trap, glue it into the piece that I just cut. So then we'll again, always wipe off your excess glue. It's not really necessary, but it does make it look like it's been done by a professional. And this is one of the tricks of the trades that we're trying to teach you. So now I'm going to glue my pipe, glue my fitting inside. Doesn't hurt to have a rag on the bottom of your cabinet here in case you do spill. So what I do is I shove it in there, and I'll eye it up fairly close to level, and then I'll take my level and actually make sure it's perfect. So that's nice and level. Now all we gotta do is turn this over there and line it up. Give it a nice finger tight, hand tight. And then again, like I had said, you can make this level. That's pretty much bang on right there. Tighten the bottom, tighten the top. Take your big channel locks, pump pliers, whatever you want to call them. Don't need to tighten these a ton. You can definitely crack them and over tighten them, so you're better off just snugging them and then checking for leaks. I can generally hand tighten it and it doesn't leak, so it really doesn't have to be that tight. So we're going to turn these bad boys on, turn our hot on. And then to test for leaks, we like to fill the sink all the way to the overflow.
Alright, so now that we got the sink full of water, we can see the water is going through the overflow, just right here. So we'll drop down underneath the sink and do another water test to make sure we're good.
So now I'm going to open up that pop-up from above, push it down, let all this full sink of water do a good test. Oh, you can hear that thing draining great. So when you're going to test, you're going to want to just feel everywhere. Generally your leaks are going to come from up here or through these threads like we had said. We're good so far, no leaks, but you definitely want to just check your union on your P-trap, all these, anywhere where a leak can happen, your glue joints, your water lines, make sure you just feel everywhere around that you've done anything to do with water. And sometimes you can put a rag down here for the first few days. Just put a big rag there and use it and check it periodically, because leaks do actually show up later down the road.